How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And I'm only hearing you out of one ear for some reason. So, let's try this. There it goes. A little bit going on today, folks, so I'm probably going to be a little disheveled, as you can see here. I had a little mess up with the music and stuff as I get started, but remember, I'm the one running this whole show, and having a problem with books getting to the storefronts because evidently enough weren't published. So that's okay. I guess there's worse problems to have. If you have high demand for your book, that's good. But yeah, needless to say, I'm not exactly a happy camper right now, which will probably reflect in the show, I would imagine. So why don't we go ahead and we're going to get started. We had a lot to talk about tonight, And I'm sure that we won't, I don't want to keep everybody on here for a long period of time. Let's do it. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. So for everybody that has been trying to order books today, I apologize. Amazon is out. Barnes & Noble is out. Walmart no longer has it on their website, so I'm assuming that they are out. So basically, nobody has any books. You can buy the Nook if you have a Nook, whatever that, I don't know the electronical things, but on Barnes & Noble, and the Kindle on Amazon. You can order those, and pretty soon here with this coming week, I believe, the audio or the Audible version will be up for sale. So while, yes, you're saying there on Twitter that is a good problem to have, it is an avoidable problem. And as people know, people that know me know that the way I work is I'm a big team player. When I sign on to a team, I expect the team to work fluidly, and I'm not going to go into great detail about this, folks, but when you sign me up to do a job, I'm going to forward think every single thing that there needs to be done, and I'm going to get it done. How else do you think I have created these types of things? Wrote this book in 2 months. I wrote the whole book in 2 months, and it's been a bestseller. But see, what happens is when people don't do their job, what happens is you end up, it ends up affecting, there's a ripple effect that affects so many things. So hopefully these books will be in stock tomorrow, as I'm hosting the Sean Hannity radio show tomorrow at 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I'll be hosting Will Cow on Friday. So these are big days. Big days. So hopefully everybody that wants to buy a book tomorrow can buy a book. Otherwise, there's going to be hell to pay. So enough said about that. But needless to say, you're going to see this face in aggravation for the rest of the show. And so anyway, this just leads straight into the rest of the aggravation that I'm feeling when I wrote the title for today's show. And I put in there what we're going to talk about. There's so many things in this title that are infuriating to me. And not just because I'm already angry, but because I got to be honest with you folks. I am absolutely astounded at the nature of things in this country. I can't judge other countries. I can't say, I can't believe in Zimbabwe things happen the way they do. I don't know. I'm not Zimbabwean or whatever you say. I don't know how things should work over there. But I know the United States. This is a free country. It's a country that demands service not only to freedom, but to each other, so that you have a way of life that is consistent and enjoyable. And there's so many things in this day and age that just absolutely frustrate me. First and foremost, the work ethic of most people. The fact that most people, look, there's ways. Timothy Ferriss wrote an incredible book called The 4-Hour Body that talks about doing the minimal effort for maximum results when it comes to working out. Right? So you want to get big, there's a way to do minimal amounts of working out, and sometimes your body actually responds better to that. Laying out in the sun, for instance, instead of going out like if you haven't been out in the sun forever and you go out there and you lay out for an hour, you're going to be fried. You'll be as red as this line right here at the bottom of the screen, because your skin can't take that much of the sun's ultraviolet rays. You're going to get fried. But if you do a little bit of studying, and you find out that about 15 minutes in the sun is all you need to activate the melanin, and you do that 15 minutes on the front, 15 minutes on the back, and you do that 4 days in a row, by the end of that week, you're going to be like 3 shades darker. Whereas if you go out and you lay out for an hour, you're going to be fried. So hold on one second here, folks. Let me see here. Let's see here. I may have to block somebody here on Facebook. I rarely do that. So, John Reynolds, I don't know who you are. You're probably a troll on here, but I'm gonna talk about what you just said here in a minute. As soon as I get through talking about what I'm discussing right now. Your question is the book legit, or is it just a sure way to get yourself killed? Well, obviously you haven't read the book, or else you're just a complete blooming idiot. One of the two. So we'll get to your question here in a minute. So. Minimum effort, maximum results. There's certain things that you can do, like laying out in the sun, that if you push it too far, you'll end up getting injured. So you got to back off, regroup, and you have to, and then you'll get the maximum of whatever it is. But when it comes to work ethic, when it comes to delivering what you signed up for, you should be all in as much as it takes to get the job done. And when I look at the state of affairs of this country, and I look at the title that I wrote today and all the things I want to talk about, Mark Warner, just like Eric Holder, threatening President Trump. This is, saying that basically if he fires Mueller, that there's going to be an imminent response. This is a guy, Mark Warner. I lived in Virginia when he was governor. Worthless governor. Worthless in Congress. And going out and threatening the president instead of saying, we're all in Washington, D.C., let's work together. Let's make sure that we get what's best for the American people done. See, that never happens. When we look at Linda Sarsour, a whole group of liberals in this country, and I am speaking directly to liberals. Forget the leftists. They fall right in line there. But liberals who I tried to talk to on this show will follow what Linda Sarsour and these women's marches and all this stuff. She's a BS artist. Linda Sarsour is somebody who believes in Sharia law. She's a fundamental Muslim. She's a jihadist, said it herself. And she's also somebody that doesn't protect women's rights. There's a woman that, because she's heavy set, was working for her, and when she was in charge of this company, when Linda Sarsour was in charge of this company, was being sexually harassed. And Linda Sarsour tells her that people that look like her don't get sexually harassed. And now she's going after her, telling her she's not going to be safe working anywhere because Linda Sarsour told her, I'm going to go after you and I'm going to ruin you no matter where you go. So these people are the ones that are saying that they stand up for Americans, that they are they want to be in a position of power and authority because they want to do what's right. They're liars because they don't do what they say they would do. And then when we look at FBI Deputy Director McCabe, that guy should have been fired a long time ago. We'll talk about him, but he falls right in line with this. And then I got to tell you, the thing that is really pissing me off is that, like, I had to get a new phone, for instance. And every 2 years, we all have to go out and get a new phone, right? Especially if you have Apple. You got to go out and get a new phone because it just slows down. You can't even get anything done. Why is that? Apple finally admitted that they say it's linked to the battery life, that when you get an update, if your battery is low, then they automatically update your phone and slow it down. Now, if I wanted my phone slowed down, I mean, look, here's the reality of most of these phones, folks. Most of us don't go a long period of time without our phone being plugged in unless we're going to go to a concert and do all kinds of stuff. Most of the time, our phones are plugged in. If Apple would instead of sending a program to slow our phones down, if they would just put a battery that could be changed, well, then all this stuff wouldn't be a problem. But Apple says that they put this program in your phones to slow it down as the battery decreases. But interestingly enough, the battery only lasts the time of your contract in a phone company, so that you really have to go out and get another phone. And people have found, and they did a study on this, and they've shown that it's true, that if you go out and replace the battery that's in your iPhone, that those problems go away. So what is this telling me? They make it sound like that they're doing this for our benefit, because there's no way they can make a battery that lasts forever. I get it. But what they're doing is they are purposely building batteries that only last about 2 years. And then what do? They put a program in there that measures the speed of the battery, so that it can then start deteriorating the phone, so you will have to go out and buy a new phone. Now, if Apple said that up front, I wouldn't I'd say it's kind of a crappy way to do business, but if Apple said it up front, at least I would know that. But the fact that they hid this, and now that they're using this as an excuse, says a lot about Apple. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm surrounded by Apple products. I got a laptop. I got a huge-ass computer that we got for the show. I got 2 iPads up here so I can look at all the chats going on. And I even got my own iPhone right here with an old iPhone right there. The fact is, this makes me feel as though I don't want to be a part of Team Apple anymore. And that's a problem. I don't play on teams that are dishonest. I just don't. And so I feel as though things in this country have gotten to a point where it has deteriorated so bad that you can't go into business with somebody and trust them fully. That you can't buy a phone and expect it to work regardless of the battery life. There's always a game being played. Always. Somehow, some way, there's a game being played. And quite frankly, I'm just absolutely to my breaking point. When we look at media has convinced everybody that they are that they were spoken about in the Constitution. Not true. The freedom of press has to do, as I've always said, on the printing press, and your ability to disseminate information has nothing to do with this thing we call media, where they tell lies and where they skew information and spread a narrative. The Founding Fathers knew nothing about that, nor were they would they have ever been concerned with the capitalistic lies. And I say capitalistic, they've actually bastardized capitalism in the media, to the point where they're using our Constitution to call themselves they don't say the fourth branch of government, they call themselves the fourth estate, which is another BS freaking lie. So when I'm looking at all these things across the board, I guess I'm just getting to the point where, as you probably are, I'm furious, and it makes me want to just put my hands up in the air and go buy a heavy-duty tent and go down somewhere in the Caribbean and live on the beach somewhere and say, screw all this. It has gotten to a point where, as somebody who served their entire adult life for freedom and for the country and for the Constitution, it's almost gotten to a point where I don't recognize the country that I showed up to serve in 1997. I don't even recognize it. I don't recognize a place where I can't even shake hands with somebody and make a deal and expect them to carry out their side of the deal. Or if I pay a ridiculous amount of money for a phone, ridiculous amount of, do you realize we're paying almost as much for a phone nowadays as people paid for cars 50, 60 years ago? Yet they won't even last 2 years because the company that makes them is playing a nefarious game. Facebook, which I got to tell you, I have a lot of criticism about Facebook, a lot of criticism about the CEO of Facebook, and about how they play with the reach and so on and so forth of these Facebook Live shows. Facebook was a great product when it first started, but you literally can't even see what your family's doing anymore, because once they opened up the advertising, it has become almost unusable. You can't even see what anybody is doing anymore, because for every one news feed where somebody puts something up, there's 50 commercials that come, ads that come one after another. It's gotten to the point where, which is very interesting about this when you think about it, folks. It's gotten so bad that if I wasn't doing this show every night for you all, I literally would just shut all this stuff off. You can't, it's not even that I want to shut it off because I use it too much. I use it a lot. Trust me, social media is a huge thing for me because it has helped me get the word out and develop this this presence and this following and the CQRF and write this book and get this book sold. It's helped me tremendously. I can't say that this would have succeeded had it not been for social media. But the problem is it's gotten so off base from where it started and what it was meant for. It's no longer social media. It's direct marketing. It's direct advertising. And it's overwhelming in the advertising and censorship to the point where you can't even be the person that you want to be. On Twitter, you have to watch what you say. On YouTube, you have to watch what you say. On Facebook, you have to watch what you say. And I'm not talking about going out and threatening people's lives or I'm doing something. I'm talking about if you say something that you don't agree with something that somebody else said, if you mention color or if you mention religion or something, unless it's Christianity or white, you could be blocked. You could be kicked off. You could go to their little jails where you're not going to get out there anymore. And in the case of Facebook, you know, at one point we were reaching 1 million people, 750,000 to 1 million people a night. Their pages were being reached. And then all of a sudden it goes down to 5,000 to, I think the other night we had 60,000 people reach. But our views have not gone down. They've continued to climb because of the word of mouth. But what that boils down to is the fact that you use these social media platforms, you jump on board, but they are just simply marketing and advertising platforms now. They're really not a social media platform where we can actually communicate. Even this communication process is censored. It's not allowed to populate freely and openly. They restrict it to try to make you, guess what, buy advertising on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube. I mean, like on YouTube right now, there's so many people. There's 29 people watching. That's an average every night, about 25 to 29 people. And the reality is about YouTube is if you're conservative and you start to get big, they're going to stop it. They're not going to allow you to grow. That's not a lie. That's a fact. That's not a conspiracy theory. They've done it to Diamond and Silk. They've done it to all these different people. So this is a long intro, a long warning order. But the fact is, it's gotten to a point, folks, to where it's very aggravating. It's almost to the point where it's unbearable. It's almost unbearable in the fact that we are just inundated by things that tell you how you should be or what you should buy or what you should wear. And nowhere is anybody trying to empower you, trying to keep you aware, trying to build your awareness, nor are they giving you a product and shaking your hand and giving you something that is legitimate. There's always going to be a caveat. It's always going to have some part that's not working the way they said it would. And it is this country and the way things go and the ethics and morals, it's a shell of the way it was 40, 50 years ago. Human beings just, in this country, citizens, they just don't have the ethics and morals that they used to, and everybody wants more. It's always about more. My first client when I got out of the FBI, at one point was worth $100 million. He wanted more. And guess what? He's dead now because he committed suicide and wouldn't and bankrupt this company and put 400 people out of work. At one point he had like, I don't know, it's between 50 and 80 companies, and he hired me as a crisis manager, wouldn't listen to a thing I said to do. And I remember about 6 months before he died, I wrote a text message to him. I didn't send it. Still got it on one of my phones. I didn't send it because I thought this isn't going to do any good. But in that text message, I told him, if you don't change your ways and develop standard operating procedures for your life and your company and start firing the people that need to be fired and looking for better people, you will be either be in jail or dead or both. And 6 months later, almost to the day, he had been in jail and out for contempt of court, and he killed himself. So more does not mean happiness. More does not mean success. More does not mean that you are really going to be able to do whatever you want. We should start focusing on doing what we were called to do. We should start focusing on being the best that we can be and finding meaning in our life. And yes, less is more. That's what I've always found. I don't like having a lot of stuff. It complicates the life. It complicates the mind. So I know that it seems like I'm a bit off track from what the title of the show says tonight, but it's really not when you look at it. It's really not. I mean, philosophically, we have gone down a road in this country, and again, I can't judge other countries. I can only judge the country that I live in. We have gone down a road, and I know that the town that I grew up in, Yellville, for instance, in Arkansas, a little bitty town, was a place where there were no drugs. I remember the entire time when I was a kid, one girl got pregnant and in school, and the whole town went crazy. Every once in a while, somebody would get killed because they were drinking and driving, but there were no drugs. Now, the whole of the Ozarks in and around Arkansas, Missouri, eaten alive by methamphetamine and by different drugs, prescription drugs. You have tons of pregnancies out of wedlock for high school kids. Destroyed. And that's because the morals and ethics of this country, in small town, middle America, and the big cities has gotten to a point where it is, I don't know if we can come back from it. I don't know. Now let me, real quick before I go to the A block, let me look here what Johnny Reynolds is saying. He says, look, JTG, I'm not trying to take anything away from either you or your SF brothers, but the truth is many of those guys write books that if executed by novices like me and many others will just wind up, let me see what else he said, dead as a doornail. Well, I don't know what books you're reading, but the majority of books by teen guys are novels. They're not instructional manuals. I know of only a couple of instructional manuals that have been written by teen guys, and they're basically survival guides. My book, Johnny, and let me just give you a little instruction on life. Before you open your mouth and say something ridiculously stupid like that comment right there, and look, I told you, I'm not in a good mood tonight. You picked the wrong night to bring this up. This is a perfect example of the ignorance that I'm talking about in this country. If you had read this book, which I'm assuming, you know, you have at least a 7th grade education and you can read somewhat. If you read this book is not about action on target. This book is about empowering yourself to do analysis, to know where you could be attacked, when that attack could happen, the types of attacks that could be carried out against you, the vulnerabilities that could be exploited by bad guys, the avenues of approach that could be taken by bad guys, who those bad guys are and why they would want to attack you, and how you can go about discovering these things by getting off your ass and doing a little research and contemplating the attacker's mindset and then looking at your life. There's nothing in this book except for the section about defense where I talk about if you're caught up in an incident that you will either need to escape, and I talk about what escape really is. It's not just running. I talk about if you have to evade, which a lot of people like to say hide. The reality is you should be evading. You should be getting cover and concealment and hiding, but you should never stop moving if you don't have to. And then if you have to fight, you should already have a plan for that. So the reality is that this book, and probably many of the other books that you're condemning, is the fact that they are more about preparing your mind to take charge of a situation and not walking into a situation blindly. That's basically what Sheep No More is all about. So I'm not going to go into much more detail about this, except for Johnny. Before, and that was my dad's name, so I feel like I'm lecturing my dad. Before you go on social media, and I recommend everybody listen to this. I learned this in SEAL training, believe it or not. I told this story on a podcast today with somebody else's podcast. I got recycled in SEAL training, not because I failed an event and not because I was an idiot. I got recycled because we were told in 1997, we were told, they came to me, I was a junior officer, I was an ensign. They said, sir, they always call us sir to make us feel like idiots. So the instructor comes to me and says, sir, I need you to do this. I want you to hold a piece of paper up about like this size. I want everybody to get a piece of paper. It would have been a yellow piece of paper. And I want you to write your name, your rank, and your social security number, hold it up in front of your face, and take a picture with this camera. And I was like, okay, where do you have the film? They said, no, this is a digital camera. Well, in 1997, I had no idea what a digital camera was. And I said, well, what are these pictures for, instructor? And they said, well, this is for Hell Week. And if you, if you quit or if you fail, we'll just throw darts at them, but we need it to know who you are and what because there's a lot of guys in the class before you go into Hell Week. So I got some of the guys together and I said, listen, okay, I admit it. This is not the smartest thing in the world for me to do, but I said, listen, we're being prepared as warriors. We're being trained as warriors. And I feel like Hell Week is our battle. Okay. So why don't we do this? Why don't we hold the piece of paper up and let them know how we feel? And we'll hold it up like this and give mean looks. That way, we're kind of joking around a little bit, but at the same time, they'll know we mean business. So I guess there was maybe, I don't know, between 5 and 7 of us knuckleheads that did this. And we're all standing here like this going, all right. So my fingers, if you can see what my fingers are doing, this is how we were holding up the piece of paper. Well, little did I know that those really weren't to throw darts at. And in SEAL training, the instructors always lie to you. That also, we had to figure that out as we went along. And so what those pictures were for, actually, is that every time you had an evolution, which means everything that you did was an evolution in SEAL training, you were graded on that, pass or fail, or a percentage, and it would print out on a printer with that picture on it. That's called the chit. They would print out, and that picture was up on the top left-hand corner, and it would say pass or fail, and it would have your times for the runs or whatever. So literally a dozen times a day, that picture is going to come up in front of the instructors. Well, I didn't know that. I was trying to do, the bold thing and get everybody fired up. And, well, needless to say, we paid for that. And for the rest of first phase, they tortured the guys that did that. And I and one other guy, my good buddy Petey, were the only two that survived those beatings for the next, was it 3rd or 5th week? So it's for about 4 or 5 more weeks of first phase. Everybody else that did that except for me and Petey ended up dropping and quitting buds. That's how ferocious this stuff was. There were times when we would be doing different types of things at the pool, and they would tell everybody in the class, get out of the pool and get dressed. And so Petey and I would be the last ones there, so we'd have to swim with our hands on our heads, treading water in the 15-foot section of the pool. We had to keep our chests out of the water, so we're kicking like crazy. And they would keep us there while everybody's getting ready. And then they would say, okay, you have exactly 50 seconds to get both of these guys out of the water, fully dressed, and in the street with your boats. And it happened. This is the craziest thing. So we would swim over to the edge of the pool like this right here. And they would say, go. And there'd be the biggest dudes would grab us, literally throw us out of the pool. And we would just stand here like this, and like 2 guys would pick us up. Our T-shirts would go over our heads. The other shirts would go around us. Somebody would yank our pants up. Meanwhile, while they're doing that, other guys are putting our shoes on and tying them. So all there's like a NASCAR freaking race, like so we'd all be dressed in about 40 seconds, and the whole class would sprint to their boats, and somehow we would do that. We would get it. So that was a type of I can't say the word, but FF games that they would play with us for those of you that have been in the military. And so when it came time for, trust me, Johnny, I'm going to get back to you in just a minute. When it came time for us to, in second phase, to take dive physics, which was about the second week, myself and my good buddy Stuart failed the test. And an officer has to make an 80 on the test. Stuart was enlisted. Stuart bombed it. I made a 79, even though the questions are worth 2 points. I never really questioned that for some reason, but so they locked us down over the weekend and made us retake the test Monday. And Monday, Stuart failed it again, and I made a 79 again. So what they do? They boarded us. First, they pulled us out of the training that day and humiliated us. It was terrible, probably one of the worst days of my life. And they, I don't know if any of the guys are watching this from class 217. I haven't scrolled down here. Hold on a second here. So they boarded Stuart and I. I gave this long impassioned speech about why I wanted to be there, and they were like, that's good. That's what we want to hear. We understand, we're going to give you, go outside. We're going to talk about this. They brought me back in, and when they came back in, they threw this file down in front of me, and it had it had one of those chits right there in front of me, and it had WTFO, and I'll only tell, because I don't curse on this show, but it was what the F over. That's what that stands for. And it had a big pin mark that went up straight to the picture with an arrow pointing towards it. So, and that was the XO of the Buds compound. Says, are you just sitting here blowing smoke up our rears? I mean, why would you do this? And so I tried to explain to him why we did it, that we didn't mean anything by it, but I was trying to fire the guys up, and they didn't want to hear it. So they recycled us. And which meant we had to go back to the beginning of first phase, but we didn't do it immediately. We had to go back and wait for the next class to come, which meant that Stuart and I were being beat every day for 8 weeks, along with the new trainees that showed up for 8 weeks for nothing. So that extended my time at Buds 8 weeks. You don't want your time extended at Buds. I'd already been there. I got there 2 months early because we got an officer candidate school early. So all in all, what should have been a 6-month course ended up being a 10-month course for me. So, and I was responsible for teaching Stuart I don't want to say his last name. I almost said it. Stuart. For teaching Stuart math. Now, I know I passed that test, but I'm not a math teacher. But I learned how to do math, dive physics after that, definitely. Anyway, 8 weeks later, we classed back up, and Stuart just nailed it, and I made I think I made a 98 on the test. Stuart made like a 91 or 992, excuse me. And so we passed, and we went on with 218, and we ended up graduating. The day I graduated, the XO who had recycled me came up to me after everybody was finished graduating, and he shook my hand, and he said, I'm very proud of you. I'm glad that we kept you. And do you understand why you were recycled? And I said, because I was a dumbass, sir. And he goes, no, because I wanted you to learn the lesson that you don't mess around with cameras, with the media, with the press, because they'll screw you every time. And I want you to go out and teach the members of your team where you end up. I want you to teach these people this, because this is a problem. And I said, well, I appreciate the lesson, sir, but you could have just told me that. So after a good laugh, you forget about Buds after you were gone. And you don't forget about it, but, that's behind me now. Now I'm focused and moving towards the team. And so how does that reflect back to what you were saying there, Johnny, is that social media is just like that chit that was printed out. I didn't know what that digital camera was, and I didn't know where that picture was going. So I threw caution to the wind, and I said, hey, guys, Let's do this smart thing. Let's hold a piece of paper up and flip the camera off and give a mean look, you know. I didn't mean anything bad by it, but I was stupid making a decision based on something that I knew nothing about. And so here's my lesson to you, Johnny, and to everybody else that's on social media. Don't open your mouth or flex your Twitter muscles on this keyboard. This is your enemy. Just like that camera was my enemy, this is your enemy in life. If you flex your Twitter muscles or your Facebook muscles by saying stupid stuff like that without knowing the community that I am a part of, without understanding what the book is that I even wrote, it makes you look like an idiot. And I don't know, maybe you are. I don't know you, but I'm giving you the benefit of a doubt. And I give everybody the benefit of a doubt when they're on social media until they troll me or say something like that. So you picked the wrong day to come at me with that nonsense. So that's it. I hope you get something out of that. Let's see. What next? Let me just look here real quick. Chit news. Yes. Long lesson that was. Okay. Let's go to, I know it's going to be, I'm trying to get out of here because I don't want to keep you guys on too long. Let's go to the A block and let's talk about Warner real quick. All right. I don't really have to say much about Mark Warner except for he creeps me out. And I think that he's similar to Al Franken in that he is he's a weirdo. And I think he's like a combination of Al Franken and Eric Holder. I've always thought that Mark Warner that we can see here is another one of these people that somehow gets themselves in a position of leadership and never performs his job. He performs as a politician. And I know people are going to say they're watching this show that's politics, but we've been indoctrinated to think that. We live in a free country, and we should have leaders in office, not politicians. And that's the problem because we have basically sold ourselves out to believing through indoctrination that the DNC and the RNC, the Democratic and Republican committees, are basically government entities, but they're not. They're not government entities. They are private companies. And we have allowed ourselves to be indoctrinated to believe that people like Warner is the choice, that he is the man. Barack Obama said that Hillary Clinton was the most qualified person to run for president ever. Seriously? George Washington isn't in that running. Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, people that were fully well-rounded human beings that were the founders of this country. Abraham Lincoln came a little bit later, but we look at the founding fathers, and you're telling me that Hillary Clinton is the most qualified ever? Hillary Clinton, unlike the founding fathers and most presidents leading up to their time in office, Hillary Clinton has never had a real job in her adult life. She has been playing the part of a leader since she got out of college. Never really had the job of, never really been a leader, never trained as a leader, except by Saul Alinsky and how to train subversives. But the fact is, and yes, TJ Dearman off of Facebook, I believe Hillary Clinton should be locked up. And in fact, I will say this, Obama got one thing right in that statement. She is the biggest, or excuse me, the most qualified person to be, that's where it stops. I don't agree with him after this, to be considered as a criminal that should be locked up that ever ran for president. I'll put it to you that way. Hillary Clinton is a criminal. and she's not qualified to be a leader. She showed that. I mean, there's many different ways that she showed that. Using government property outside of a skiff. Passing classified information over an unclassified network. These are simple things that we're taught as agents and in the military and so on and so forth. These are simple things, right? Destroying government property, obstructing justice. These are things that even the most unseasoned leader that becomes an agent or in the military will know, which means they're actually more seasoned to be leaders than Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, or the majority of modern-day presidents, congressmen, or senators. So getting back to Mark Warner, when he says that if the president fires Mueller, that there's going to be an immediate response, he is doing the same exact thing that Eric Holder did at the beginning of the week when he was tweeting out saying that there's a red line drawn, and if the president fires Mueller, then that there will be an immediate response. So now you're starting to see not only do they bully or try to intimidate or threaten the president, they will do it in a way as to try to circle him through social media, through mainstream media. The congressmen, the senators, the former attorney generals, they will use all these different avenues of approach, which if you read my book, you'll understand the way these criminal elements think. They will use all these different avenues of approach to try and come at the president and threaten him. And that is, again, going on what I was talking about before, that is what you get when you hire nefarious, deviant criminals. And that's what this guy is. Mark Warner does not do the job of a leader. He sits in Washington, D.C., and flexes his muscles to do whatever these establishment members do to keep themselves in power and continue their nefarious and criminal ways going. Let's go to the B block, and I want to bring this up. I got to pull it back up here. I don't know why I crossed it out a minute ago, but this has to do with the girl that was being sexually harassed. Let's see here. Stand by. And this is her statement, and she's very brave coming on and giving her statement. Let's see where they put it every time I get... Okay, there it is.
Joining me now, the alleged victim of that sexual harassment, joins me now here on the set. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. I know this isn't easy, right?
No.
She's coming after you.
Yeah.
How does that play out in your life?
I'd like to say it's the usual thing that she would do. Just come at me for what I'm saying is happening.
She says that it was nothing. What happened to you? What do you say?
I say it was something, and I did tell her several times what was happening, and she just brushed it off. And
were you as specific as Trace just explained
Yes.
it in there? So you specifically said that about the way that he was rubbing up against you?
Yes.
And what did she say to you at the time?
One of her comments actually was something like, that doesn't happen to someone that looks like you.
And what did she mean by that?
Well, I mean, I don't fit her, I guess, physical persona of someone being harassed.
So that's what you're referring to when you say
Yeah.
that she was body shaming you, and
Yes.
she says that's ridiculous. That never happened. What is it like going? You know, I want to put the tweet up that that Trace just mentioned because I thought it was very moving. You put this out. You say, so to be clear, everyone has the right to state their Me Too story, but me. Politics has more than actual politics has more say than actual sexual harassment and abuse. If I stand up against Linda Sarsour, I am a bad Muslim or against Islam. You all realize that you are just reenacting what I have been through. This is your response to what's happening to you on Twitter. It's not just her. There's an army of people who support her that are coming after you, right?
Yeah, on Twitter,
tell me about that.
I'm getting messages on Twitter, on Facebook even, where there's more body shaming. I'm being told that I'm doing this for attention. It's politically charged somehow. I'm not really sure how that's possible because I'm not doing this for any reason other than wanting my story out there. She also has her people claiming that it's a, other than having a right-wing, excuse me, and left-wing situation, it's against Islam. And I'm just trying to defame her name somehow by saying what actually happened.
Why would it be against Islam? Are you not supposed to speak out as was suggested in that? A woman's not supposed, is that true?
It's not actually true. I mean, I'm Muslim, and these people are Muslim as well. And I've studied Islam. Nowhere in there does it say that you can't say anything.
That you're supposed to stay quiet.
No, and nowhere in there does it say that you're against the religion if you actually stand up for yourself.
If you stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
So, we all watched the Women's March. We heard, all of these different women, Ashley Judd, other women standing on the stage talking about things that had happened to them. Linda Sarsour leading this whole movement, talking about Donald Trump, saying that he's unfit to be in the White House. And then you go to her and say, hey, this happened to me. Were you shocked with her reaction?
I actually was not shocked with her reaction, because that is actually how she treated me when I went to her the first time. When I went to her during the actual situation. That's why in the tweet, if you noticed, I did state, this is exactly what happened to me. You guys are just replaying it. You're reenacting it, telling me that I'm not a good Muslim. This never happened. I'm making up stories. Those are her words during that whole entire ordeal.
Yeah.
So now everybody's just retweeting it. They're just doing the same thing that she did.
So I asked you what you're doing now, and you said that you're not working. And I said, why? And you said, everywhere I try to get a job, she finds me.
Yes, because she did actually tell me at one point that I will never work in New York City ever again for as long as she lives.
Wow. I'm sorry for everything you've gone through. And I know there's a lot of back and forth.
Well, that's a pretty powerful interview. And it's a shame. Because for a couple reasons. She seems like a nice person. And secondly, Linda Sarsour is a dirtbag. And this points out exactly one of the biggest problems that I talked about at the beginning of the show, in that in this country, we've become, and it's where I got the name of the book, Sheep No More. This country has become a country of sheep that will follow. I don't care if you're Muslim or Christian or Jewish or anything else, or atheist, man or woman, gay or straight. We become provocateurs where we want to be noticed on Instagram. We'll wait until we get that right angle that makes us look the best, and then we present that image of who we are. And so people will go out and they'll flock to somebody who says the things that they think are right or that they want to hear, and yet they don't go back then and actually research these people to make sure that they're actually somebody who is what they say they are. And Linda Sarsour is a jihadist. She is a nasty individual. Her little friend Tamika Mallory that runs with her is another one of these. She's like a no-see-em. You know those little things when you're down at the beach that you can't really see them, but when they bite you, you're like, ow, it's so annoying. That's both of these women are like that. They offer nothing to society. They offer nothing to life, but their mouths are so big that you can't help but notice them because of their big-ass mouths. And I've learned, as many of you have throughout the years, that when somebody has that big of a mouth and they are that insulting, typically what goes right along with it is this type of behavior, this nasty, nefarious, mean, demeaning, lying behavior, which she is showing in her treatment of this beautiful young woman who is extremely soft-spoken and I believe her story. And look, even if it wasn't sexual assault, if the guy was doing it to insult her, I believe that's just as bad in my book. If you're trying to demean somebody and you're rubbing up against them with your crotch, I don't see any difference in that than somebody going and trying to cop a feel, some dirtbag trying to do that as well. It's the same. So, again, I'm just full of advice tonight. When I'm angry, I guess I give out advice. Folks, you can't just follow people blindly. Look me up. Look at all the quotes that I've had. Go back. All my shows are posted. You can see the things that I say. You can see what I've done in my career. I'm a man of integrity. I stand by what I've said. And I've walked away from many different groups of people because I'm not going to stand with them. I walked out of an interview with Lisa Evers on Hot 97 because Tamika Mallory was calling me and the president a racist and a white supremacist. I got up and walked out of that. I've never, ever been racist in my life. I won't stand for that. And American people, you listen, you're free-born. You're powerful beyond what you would ever know, but yet you set your power to the side and you follow these weirdos. It's just remarkable. It's remarkable. I think we got a troll over here on Twitter, but I haven't seen it. Everybody keeps saying it, but listen, let the trolls troll. Just ignore what they're saying. Again, they give us numbers. So the more attention they give us, the better. Bring it on. Why do you think Sean Hannity, besides the fact that he's got one of the biggest listening audiences in the world, but Sean Hannity was named as one of the top, if not the top, social media, I forgot what the word is I'm looking for here, in all of media. So more people go to Sean Hannity's site for information. Influencer, that's what it was. Well, I mean, I'm sure a great vast majority of that is because these trolls are too big of idiots to realize that they're giving him popularity. But listen, Sean doesn't care. So let's talk for a second real quick about, and I just want to say this. I didn't get her name, but if I had enough, if I had the ability to hire somebody for this show as a personal assistant, I'd hire her. And I can guarantee you, Linda Sarsour would never get in between my employee and whether or not I'm going to hire her. Linda Sarsour, as far as I'm concerned, she wants to be Palestinian so bad, and she wants to speak about jihadism. She should go over there and live with them. Go over there and be a powerful force in over next to Israel in that fight over there, and go spread your stuff over there, because you're nothing but a hindrance to freedom in this country. And, you know, look, Facebook and Twitter and all these people, they can censor me all they want, but she has shown more than enough evidence that she does nothing but stir up trouble and demean women. Now that we're seeing this, talks about how she's friendly to people who are gay and to women, yet she follows Sharia law, which would kill gays and gives women less rights than a goat. People like that, as far as I'm concerned, if they want to identify with that ideology, then they should go ahead and be considered part of it, and they should leave this country. That's how I feel about that. Now, real quick, let's see here. I already talked about the iPhone insulting. Let's talk about FBI Deputy Director McCabe. I read in there in one of these stories that somebody said, one of these congressmen or senators, because he just went behind closed doors and was grilled in the House Intelligence Intel Committee. Why are people like Deputy Director McCabe not fired instantly when even accusations come up? You know, I was speaking to somebody today about something that was happening to a friend of ours, and it had to do with the military. And they were talking about how even if the whisper of sexual harassment got out, that person's career is going to stop. Their promotions will stop. And if it is shown to be true, they're done. They're going to spend time in the brig, and they're going to get a dishonorable discharge. Well, Same thing if you misuse classified information, if you lie under oath, if you obstruct justice, if you commit espionage, let alone treason, or if you work in the furtherance of a criminal enterprise while in a government position. All those things are enough to get somebody not only fired, but put in jail, investigated and put in jail. With the exception of senior executive service management. Why is that? Why is it? And I know the answer to this. It's more about getting people up there and through the ranks so that they can work together as a group to get whatever they want. These people don't want to lose their job or their piece of the pie. I don't understand that. I don't understand how our system has gotten to this point where bad people can work to get other bad people up into these areas. I mean, it exists. I clearly see it. It's visible. You can see it. It's visible in all aspects of government and business. But why have we allowed that? Why? I mean, I'm asking, I don't know the answer to that question. I can tell you and describe exactly what's happening, but I can't answer the question as to why the American people, the largest free country in history, a country that systematically changed the ideology of slavery and of enslaving people, that systematically changed the way that women are looked at as less of a human being, or people of other color were looked at less of a human being. This country, and through its growth, and because of the Constitution and the Founding Fathers and the way they put that in place, this country has changed the history and the focus of mankind to a point where other people come from other countries here so that they can make a life for themselves and be the best and succeed and have things for their family and raise a family and be free. Why then are the American people so willing to bend over and allow individuals like McCabe and the FBI and the DOJ and Mueller and these congressmen and senators to build a hierarchy so that they will not and cannot be punished? How could we have allowed that to happen, and why do we continue to allow it to happen? I want you to think about that tonight as you go to sleep. I want you to think about that, and I want you to realize that we are all to blame. Individually, you may not be to blame, but as a whole, the fact that we don't unite, the fact that we don't come together, that, and somebody says the FBI and the DOJ will get cleaned up. I don't know who that is, but if that's a joke, but it's not getting cleaned out. I mean, literally, folks, I don't preach revolution in this country, but there is a slow-moving there is a slow-moving boulder that is just rolling over this country, slow-moving revolution that is crushing this country. Yeah, the FBI is not going to get cleaned out. It's not going to happen. Too many people in a position of authority that feel exactly the same way and that are a part of this same corrupt organization. I worked there for 8 years. Nothing's been fixed. It's gotten worse. The FBI is not getting better. The FBI, see, here's the problem with all these agencies, is that over a period of time, people like McCabe and all these other SESers that get into Strzok and Mueller when he was running the FBI, they get into a position where, now listen to this very carefully, whoever this motivated person is that's saying that the FBI will change, let me explain to you why it's not going to change. These people came into power slowly at the beginning of the Clinton administration, probably George Bush 41, 43, that would be the second George Bush, after 9/11, didn't get rid of the people, or when he came to office, he didn't get rid of the people that were the upper echelons of government under Clinton. He didn't get rid of them. Same way that Trump didn't get rid of the people after Obama. Biggest mistake Trump ever did. So Bush didn't get rid of those people. Those people were allowed to flourish. They were allowed to grow in seniority. They were allowed to slowly develop into what we call now the deep state. And the problem is, as those people grew, because if they weren't reproduced, grow and then go away. But as they grew, they recruit others just like them. Remember, they don't have to recruit 1,000 people just like them. They need to recruit 10 people just like them, and then make sure that they get up through the ranks so that they can pass this on, so they can utilize these people. And during the Obama administration, it flourished. So the Clinton administration, a lot of these people came into government. In the Bush administration, he didn't get rid of them. Potentially he was a part of it. And then the Obama administration, they just flourished. And now what you see is that literally they run the government. And they work together in positions where they are above the law. Now, you and I, unless we band together 60 million people and march on Washington, D.C., and enter into all these buildings and oust these people, you are never going to change that. It's too powerful. Listen, two terrorist attacks in New York City in the past month have killed numerous people and injured numerous, and nobody's talking about that today. 9/11 changed this country. 2 attacks in New York City, one of them less than 4 blocks away from where that attack happened on 9/11. Nobody's talking about that. If that's the case, do you think that in a week after whatever McCabe said here, that anybody's even going to be worrying about that? They're not. Jeff Sessions is absolutely nowhere to be found. Is anybody raising a stink about that? No. People say, well, yeah, he's nowhere to be found. But listen, Jeff Sessions is nowhere to be found. We do not have an attorney general. We have an assistant attorney general that's acting as the attorney general, and his merry band of criminals and that make up a criminal enterprise. You are not going to change the FBI or the DOJ unless there were some superheroes in government and there was some superheroes in media, kind of like what happened with Ronan Farrow, who was, I believe, a superhero, and I believe Ronan Farrow probably should have gotten Time Magazine's Person of the Year. That guy took a stand against a society in Hollywood, and he pried it open like a can opener. And I unless there's a hero like that in Washington, D.C., nothing's going to change. Nothing. And in the media. All right. Let's call it a night. I'm going to go down to the store and get myself a steak. I'm going to eat a steak tonight. All right, I feel better. I'm glad I came on here and talked to you all. Probably not the greatest show I've ever done, but it was therapeutic for me, so I thank you very much. And now you guys know some of my secrets about like why I got recycled in SEAL training. Remember, don't do this. This finger will never get you anything good. It's a bad finger. I mean, besides the fact that it helps grip cups, this finger does nothing. It's just bad. It's bad. It'd be better off taped to this finger. So then you could double point at somebody. But, yeah. Anyway, let's go to the truth zone. All right. Well, the whole show tonight was kind of like a truth zone, I guess. Same thing with yesterday. So here's a little something. I never got an email back. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb here. And I haven't really said anything about this. I'll talk about it a little bit more tomorrow. Here we go. I am hosting Sean Hannity's radio show. I just got clearance for this. Just now, I just checked my email, got clearance. I'm hosting Sean Hannity's radio show tomorrow. I'm hosting Will Cow radio show on Friday. Next week on the 26th, now listen closely. On the 26th, man, our numbers are down tonight. On the 26th and on the 27th, I'm going to be hosting David Webb's show on SiriusXM Patriot, and then Sean Hannity's radio show again on the 29th. But here's the secret. Hold on to your hats. Now, all these people left are not going to know this until tomorrow. But Newsmax and I are going to come together next week. We're going to try it out for a week. And this show, I don't know what the regular time is going to be, but next week, the 26th to the 29th, The Experts is going to be on Newsmax television from 1 p.m. until 2 p.m. We're going to do that the 26th, 27th, the 28th, and the 29th. So we're moving forward, CQRF. So next week, I may still come up and do an evening show. But overall, anybody can log on to Newsmax. They have their own website. And you go to newsmaxtv.com. If you have Fios, it's on there. I think it's maybe on a couple of the cable networks. But as of next week, at least for that week, as we try it out, from this studio, no less, at least for right now, that may change, but there's a good chance it's going to be done from this studio, and it's going to be broadcast live on Newsmax television. So that is pretty cool. And then hopefully we'll get a night slot there so we can get in the groove with everybody else. So that's the big news. Hannity tomorrow, where it's going to be a Christmas special. You want to tune in 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Will Cow on Friday. I don't know who we're going to have on there. David Webb next week on the 26th and 27th. And then Hannity again on the 29th. And this show, The Experts, for a week is going to move to Newsmax television, which you can still watch it on there online at newsmaxtv.com from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pretty exciting, folks. I started this. It's been almost 2 years now. All these people have been involved, watching it, coming on here every night, being a part of it. And I learned so much about lighting and sound and all this stuff from even CNN, from the people that work behind the scenes there. Great people from Fox, Newsmax, and now we're gonna, at least for a couple days, get a shot at being on regular TV. That's pretty incredible. Couldn't do it without you. We're moving, we're going places, and ain't nobody gonna hold us back. As always, it's been a pleasure tonight. Sorry I had to rant. I had to get it off my mind. I had to let people know how I feel. We're fired up. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., Sean Hannity radio show for a Christmas special. Be there. We're going to have great guests. Be a part of it. And I'll see you back here tomorrow night for The Experts. I'm Jonathan Gillum. My good buddy Rico, as always, is right down there. I am the storm. And this is The Experts. Whenever you see this face, no matter where I'm at, TV, here, if you hear me on radio, the truth has definitely arrived. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.